Nothing, of course, is stronger than the love between a parent and a child. But raising that kid could bankrupt you. The Department of Agriculture estimates the average cost of raising a child born in 2012 will be more than $241,000, or if you use expected inflation rates on that number, $302,000. Think about that. And this doesn't even include the cost of sending Junior to college. For today's User's Guide to Love and Money, we have advice on raising these expensive kids. Let's bring in Dr. Rob Kamenerek, Lisa Birnbach, a mother and writer, and David Friedman, a co-founder and president of WealthX. Welcome to you all. Great to have you here. Dr. Rob, I'll start with you. Everybody I talk to about that number is shocked, and they tell me universally, I would never have had kids if I knew that.
That's a shocking number. And, when I hear it, and we have 4 kids, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to retire. It's just not going to be possible with those kind of numbers.
Lisa.
Is it worth it? If they pay me back, it's worth it.
Do they do that? Does that happen?
Of course not. Of course not. But we can't think about kids in terms of just the cost, because then we wouldn't have kids and we wouldn't all be as happy and also as sleepless as we are.
Well, and our viewers agree with you. They've been saying that all day. It doesn't matter what the cost is. But I'm going to tell you, David, I think people overspend on their kids. I see this all the time, and especially in New York City here, oh my goodness, the private schools, the clothes, the lessons, for goodness sakes, nobody's going to lend you money to retire, right?
That's right. Well, and here's when I saw that number, I thought this is a good birth control, right? I mean, but I don't. I agree with them in that you shouldn't be looking at the figure. And you know what? The interesting thing is that's the average, and people make it work. I mean, they don't think about the.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, frankly. But then, in my firm, we focus on the ultra wealthy. So think about here in New York, and I live in Chelsea. We were just discussing this.
Oh, you are fancy.
So in Chelsea, there's a new school which is for profit called Avenues, which is backed by hedge funds. They raised probably around $200 million, and for a 3-year-old, it's $45,000. So that's after taxes. So let's do
that's if you get in.
That's if you get in.
Some just get to be.
Yeah. So let's
all right.
We'll do the math on this. So that's $90,000 that you have to earn, and after taxes $45. Multiply that's K through 12. So 12. You're looking at about a $2 million investment. And you haven't even got to college yet.
Yeah, and maybe this kid is not even,
sounds good.
Maybe this kid doesn't even need to go to college. You never know.
Well, I have to say, I've written a lot about education, and I call my children my exhibits, because I feel like they're still in process, and I'm the scientist who didn't do well in science. And I took Exhibit B on a college tour, and the tour guide said, walking backwards, and that's what you get for your $200,000. So that's on top of the other figure. And I looked at my daughter lovingly and I said, you're not worth it.
Well, I have to tell you, I mean, people really need to ask those hard questions. It's also, Dr. Rob, a question of how much are you spending on them in terms of their health care. That's something we're not even talking about.
And health care these days can be quite expensive. It's double from what it was in the 1960s. And when we take a look at, raising a child, what comes into their health, their wellness, immunizations, when you're pregnant, prenatal visits and the cost of those, just even the delivery of a newborn life.
People don't shop around when they have their baby delivered, and they pay tens of thousands of dollars more than they probably need to. I mean, you can really say, I know it sounds crazy that you're going to save money giving birth, but you actually can.
Well, if you walk around, eat spicy food, and jump up and down a lot, I guess you can
That'll
do it
help
yourself.
too, different strokes for different folks. Let's talk about the stress that parents, and I think you would have a great response to this, Lisa, what people are facing, what parents are facing right now as they look at the $90,000.
I think all of us who started breeding in the 90s, at least, I can only speak for 800,000, right, a lot of women. I think we didn't think about, of course we didn't think about what it would cost to have children. And of course that didn't factor into it, because we had a lot of love and a lot of hormones. And that's for you. and we were educated people who were ready to have families.
So you were confident at that point, but
at that point I was, but I remember even working on a marketing account for private schools and thinking, oh yeah, $50,000. And then when I got my first bill for $50,000 from a college, I thought, hey, what a surprise. And not in a good way either.
David, you're talking about the cost and how they pile up here in New York City, but it happens all over the place. I was looking at some national figures for daycare for kids. You can spend as much, and not even in New York City, as much for daycare for kids as you do putting kids through college each year. The costs are out of control, and I think young people in particular get panicked about this. What's your advice to people who are totally stressed out?
Yeah, so, you know, we live in New York here. We have a 5-year-old, so my wife and I have been through this, and my wife would tell you the same thing. I watched her go through this, and it's unfortunately this rat race that you jump into because you feel like you haven't done enough, or did you do enough schools, and did he learn Mandarin Chinese when he went in for the interview, and or did he throw up, or did he yell, or whatever. And I had to, you know, for my wife, I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, very, you know.
I like the accent.
Single parent family home, and I went to a small Christian private school in Charlotte. And the only reason actually I could afford it was there was an attorney at my church who paid for me to go. And,
wow.
and I always tell my wife, I said, listen, you know, look at both of us. We're okay. It's going to be okay. We'll figure it out, right? And we didn't end up too bad. You know, I went to Yale Divinity School and studied theology and epistemology.
Wow.
So there you go.
You're pretty impressive. I have to ask you, though, because we don't have a ton of time left, I need ideas. I need solutions for people out there. Lisa, you first.
Okay. Spend time with your kids in lieu of sending them to the Mandarin class and to Suzuki violin class. And on weekends, read with them, take walks with them. That is not only saving money for all these activities, but it's also really good for your kids' stability.
Yes, and I think everybody would agree with that. That's a great idea. Dr. Rob.
Healthy kids are less expensive kids. Make sure that you get them away from the TV and the video games, get them outside, get them playing imaginatively, and make sure that they're eating healthful foods, because healthful foods equals stronger immune systems, healthier kids, less expensive kids, and that'll be a good thing, right?
Oh, yeah, I love that.
And small kids are very expensive if you amortize them by inches. Yeah. So grow them big.
Grow them big, that's cheaper.
So, you know, teenagers will each out a house and home, but you look at the cost of that, it really explodes.
Or twins, you can amortize it, and then you have, you know. So my interesting thing is, one of the most interesting things that we found is that in New York, there are Catholic schools everywhere that have fantastic educations and are a fourth the price of your typical, you know, $40,000 for...
You know, let me tell you this. You're not going to believe it, but in some parts of the country, you can go to the public school. It's good.
Right.
Yep.
Regis School in
Bay
New York
Area.
City is considered the best school, bar none, by the Ivy League. It's an all-boys Catholic school, Jesuit school, free.
I feel so much smarter having spoken to you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
Great
you.
job. Really
Thank you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Got to come back. Well, thanks, Lisa David and Dr. Kamenarek.